Welcome to the Natanya Experience, where we explore the journey of transformation from the ordinary to the extraordinary. Today, my guest is Christa Mariah. From being a corporate leader, burnt out in the rat race, to becoming a visionary leader that creates safe spaces of healing and growth, Christa's journey is a testament to the power of self-love, spirituality, and resilience. We'll deep dive into Christa's personal transformation and moving from corporate exhaustion to ultimately a rebirth through which her self-discovery and spirituality flourish and now shine on others. Her story touches on breaking free from societal expectations, overcoming burnout, and embracing vulnerability to live her most authentic life. Christa opens up about her struggles with depression, the painful breakdown of her marriage, and how these experiences led her to discover her life's true purpose. We explore the personal, profound intersection of technology, spirituality, and human interaction. Christa shares how she's leveraging AI, virtual reality, and ancestral healing to guide others on their own hero's journey. Tune in as we unravel the complexities of duality of purpose and the game of life. Don't miss this inspiring conversation about healing, awakening, and the courage to live true to yourself. Hi there. Welcome to
Hi.
the Natanya Experience. Hi, today I have a very special guest, Christa Mariah, who we will talk in depth about her journey of transformation along the themes that we like to talk about every day on the show, which have to do with living your best life, transforming from the shackles of your personal narrative that tell you limiting things, letting go of the past, and having and embracing radical self-love so that you can live the best, fullest, happiest life on earth. So, welcome today, Christa, my very special guest. I can't wait to get into it with you.
Thank you, Natanya. I'm excited to be here, happy to share my story, and looking forward to conversing with you and your listeners.
Thank you so much. I was wondering if we can go back in time first, which we like to do here on the show, which is talk about your journey and where you came from, because I think it's quite an interesting and dichotomous road that you crossed over from, and really talk about what it was like and maybe some of the challenges along the way.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to ask people their story. And of course, when you ask someone, what is your story? You've got to have your own. So, the short version of my story is I was raised by hippies. I rebelled against them, left at 15, put myself through college and grad school, got married, started a business. I taught at the college level business communications. I was quite proper in the corporate world. And I went into technology with Gartner. I spent about 6 years in 6 different roles. I say I was hired, fired, acquired, rehired, and now retired from the world's largest information technology research and advisory firm. And then I ended my career when I got really burnt out in corporate world and the rat race at COVID. When they sold the company, the last corporate role I held was vice president of global alliances for a software company called PKware, which, fun fact, they invented the zip format in the late 80s and became a cybersecurity automated data discovery and redaction platform. So I went from executive to finding my way in my own personal healing journey and going beyond burnout and divorce and some major life changes that happened for me in 2020.
Well, thank you for sharing all that. I know that's sort of the sound bites of the story. I was wondering because obviously, as you know, a lot of our mission here is to help stave off depression and addiction and suicidal ideation. And so it's important to show up and show people how we're living our best lives, but also to be honest about the struggle and about the pain and about some dark times and share some of the ways you got through those. So during that time through COVID, as you were realizing that, well, things were happening to you, for you, by you, around you, as well as the changes that you were making yourself. Can you talk a little bit about some of the biggest challenges during that time outside of maybe ones that are in popular articles around, just the idea of lockdown and what it meant in isolation, but, your own journey in that time and how you kind of relied on others or not, what tools you used, some things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, the struggle in COVID wasn't about the pandemic or being in lockdown. I was in Florida. I was so blessed to live in paradise and not really have to worry about it. In Florida, we kind of pretended that the pandemic didn't exist for the most part. But when you talk about depression and anxiety and this roller coaster of life and self love and self deprecation or self loathing, I think that's where the misery for me came in. So, having put myself through college and grad school and working since age 11, having my own income and being in control of my money was really important to me. And I equated money with perfection at work. And everything had to be perfect, which also meant I spent a lot of time and energy in my work. So I also had this kind of addictive personality of like, go big or go home. I would when I drank alcohol, I would binge drink. When I would get into eating, I would binge eat. When I went into working, I would binge work. So I had this kind of workaholism that crept up over the years and really took me away from my family, from enjoying anything outside of work. Um, Besides socialization, which, being in sales and then later evolving into technology, it was all about communications and building those relationships. So there were many different roller coasters that I went on that really had me go through the ups and downs, the excited, elated joy, and then this depression of not feeling good enough or not feeling like I did a good enough job and really not even appreciating or loving myself.
Well, I'm so glad you were able to come through the other side. And anyone who knows me personally knows that this is quite a mirror for my own life and past connections in terms of the corporate world, as well as sort of a work addiction and go big or go home and food as well. All the same kind of things that we use in different ways, and sometimes it's how you dance that line. We talk about the gray band or the knife's edge around are you a danger to yourself or others versus when is it considered recreational, and that's a very big gray zone depending on how you're defining it as function, right? And as you said, financial security or financial success were often totems of like, well, then you're good. You're doing a good job. Even the fact that you're miserable on the inside doesn't matter. And I think a lot of us at COVID, just ironically, coincidentally, or purposefully, took that time to do some introspection and reflection and say, what do I want to do here on this earth? If we could go at any moment. And so can you tell us about your sort of light bulb moment? And maybe it wasn't one moment, so forgive me for saying it that way. I say either your light bulb moment or your series of moments that helped you really decide to kind of completely change who you are, how you see yourself, how you love yourself, how your family sees you, the way you show up in the world, and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, so definitely a series of light bulb moments for me. The first one was in 2012, where I actually got fired from Gartner from this job that I thought I loved. I was a sales manager, and I took my team to an offsite on the beach, and I had quit drinking for 6 months before. And then something inside of me just came in and said, pick up a drink. And it was this anxiety, this social anxiety, and then this fear of not being a good enough leader, not having something important to say. And so, with that incident, I drank too much. I passed out on the beach. I had no idea what happened. And 3 months later, I was fired when I got back from vacation. And that was my first like wake up call of one, you're not perfect. Two, you have so much more that you can contribute to this world. And three, alcohol is not doing you any favors. So I took some time. Because I didn't have a job, I went back to running a business. I had created a marketing business in the past, and I was able to spend some time with my daughters and kind of reconnect with them. They were small at the time. And then I went through a series of different jobs that I was looking to get more purpose from. And then one job I thought was my dream job, I was laid off. And I just wrote down on a piece of paper, find my purpose in life. And that was my only goal. Having been so goal oriented and motivated and driven my whole school career, my whole work career, this was the first time I only had one goal. And I was able to, through that, realize a series of different synchronicities and really magic that came into my life of focusing on this one goal of purpose and coming to this idea of creating these safe spaces or common grounds where visionary leaders could come to connect to nature, connect with each other, and connect with their vision for the next chapter, the next level. And that is called Treedom. And it is freedom in the trees. It's a treehouse retreat concept. And that was really born over this series of personal development and purpose finding and setting that intention and that goal to have one purpose. So that,
Amazing.
oh, yeah,
Sorry,
thank you.
sorry. Sorry, dear.
No, no worries. That kind of pulled me through until COVID, when this purpose really took hold of me and drove me even more to say something's happening here in COVID. And at that point, I was also pretty burnt out on the whole corporate working, and I was in sales and I worked mainly with men, and I traveled a lot, which put a lot of strain on my marriage. My husband and I grew apart, and we also had different gender roles. So I was playing more of a masculine role. He was the home winner, staying at home with the girls, playing more of a feminine role. So a lot of these different things energetically took a toll on our marriage. And then that's when the real like depression, the excruciating pain, the first time in my life that I really had any kind of suicidal thoughts, these kind of, I just want to give up. I don't know how to communicate with my husband, with my children, with my family. So those things were really difficult at that time. And at the same time, there was this greater voice that was coming in saying, there is a bigger purpose here. There is a mission that you have as a voice at this time to rebalance these energies, these masculine and these feminine energies, and to make a greater impact in helping raise the vibration of humanity.
That's quite a big goal and purpose in there. And I thank you for being so raw and honest and vulnerable on the interwebs, because I think these things are important. It's important to tell people that if you're in a dark place, your story doesn't have to be over. Maybe this is the part of the movie where the hero is, downtrodden, but there is more. There is more to achieve and to feel and to realize. And so thank you for that. We're going to take a short little break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk all about your current endeavors and projects and some exciting stories there.
Wonderful.
Hi there. Welcome back. I'm here
Thank
with Yeah, sorry, I did that to you each time. I'm here with Christa Mariah. She has been sharing a quite personal and raw account of a journey from darkness to light. And now we're going to focus on the good stuff and what you're doing now, and a little bit about your sort of enlightenment on the path, and some of what you're seeing with your new projects and the folks that you're encountering that are of very different walks of life, whether they are those who are collaborating with you or those that you guys that you are healing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So when we were last speaking, we talked about this darkness that came over COVID, and the burnout with the corporate rat race, and then also the falling apart of my marriage after 17 years, and this parting of ways. So energetically, my husband and I were attacking each other, but personally, physically, and in our lives, we were trying to work this out. So it was over a period of almost 3 years of trying to reconnect and recommunicate, and then both of us becoming very frustrating. He got an autoimmune disease, got sick, and then I just was crying almost every day. And for me, crying was not something that was typical in my life. I was very much, I'm going to get this job done. I'm going to do everything I set out to do, gung ho, and make it happen. So I very much went through experiences that I was not used to or prepared for. And I felt that as a human, I had to go and find myself and really go on my own hero's journey, as you mentioned. And this for me was a healing journey, and it was an introspective journey. I got married when I was 20 years old, right out of college, and I didn't take the time to really get to know, who am I and why am I here? And I also never really bought into any religions. I fell in love with my husband, and I believed in him. I believed in us. I believed in our ability to do whatever we set out to do. But I didn't actually spend time getting to know a higher power or investing in my spiritual life. And I always thought once I made enough money, I would go to that. I have a spiritual life path number of 7, which is about getting to the truth. And it is a spiritual life path. If you go into numerology, which is fascinating, something I'm still just very shallow in, but there's so many meanings behind these numbers, and everything in this universe, in this world, actually in this world, is based on these ones and zeros and these different numbers and formulas. And so I took a pretty heavy deep dive into the human psyche, into healing through the path of Reiki energy healing. I am now a Reiki master after about 3 years of doing self-practice and then practicing with others. And I have done a lot of deep dive into many different modalities through my work in investing in a startup, a project that a partner and I were working on after my divorce. I met my next partner, Jeevan, who had created Human 11 and Human 101. And these were projects to really dive into the human psyche, into the archetypes that really make up all of us in our personalities. We all carry these different archetypes. You can see I have this crown on my head. I am embodying into the queen archetype. It's one of the 4 core feminine archetypes. And I went really deep into this work of understanding what's beneath the ego or the character of Christa, and what are these other archetypes or characters or personalities that I can tap into and that make up us as humans, and then being able to create a space for that exploration, to detail those journeys, to create these worlds in virtual reality and using AI that we could all go on these inner journeys and then actually create these scenes and these virtual vision boards and these memory palaces that we can capture all of this exploration and discovery with artists and facilitators, and have these spaces or these virtual worlds that our kids or grandchildren or even us, if we come back in a future life, could go walk back through and re-experience these different stories and journeys. So that was the next chapter of my awakening and of my transformation over the past few years. I went really deep into this human 101 journey.
That's incredible. I have a little bit of a left field question that came to mind just because I know I struggle with reconciling some of my mindset and language today, thinking about if it was years ago, the me that I was 10 years ago, you know, how would you be able to convince yourself, the old you, to be open-minded and understand, because it seems like a pretty big delta between the way you exist today and where you were. And quite frankly, it's something I'm trying to bridge for people so that they don't jump into snap judgments about, well, that's very nice, but I have to pay my bills, or that's very nice, but that's just magical thinking, or, sort of the naysayer approach. I'm not asking you to defend everything you're saying. I just mean more, I know that I often catch myself almost giggling to think, wow, if I would have never thought I would have said these words, but I mean them in the moment now. So I just was wondering if you could just think about that for a second and think what comes to mind there.
Hmm. It is a difficult question because when you're at different levels of the game, different things are going to resonate. And sometimes, no matter what words people use, it's not going to make a difference until you have an experience. So for me, when I was in my younger years, I was in the corporate world, I was making six figures, I was working, 50, 60 hours a week. Someone talking to me about spirituality or meditation or just being a human being and not doing, I don't know that there was much you could have said to me that would have changed my mind. I think for me, the way that I understand the world now is this is literally like a video game. It's, you can say simulation, you can say game. A lot of people get triggered on some of those words, but either way, we are eternal spirits. We're coming into these bodies, these avatars or bionic computers, if you will, and we are playing a game, or we're in this divine comedy, whatever you like to see it. I don't like to take myself too seriously. I think it is a comedy, and I believe that we have higher selves or other versions of ourselves looking down and watching this whole scenario and playing the video game.
That's awesome. Thank you for being open to that on the spot. Big one. And partly I also was asking that because that's partly what in our connection where I reached out to you as I was reconciling my worlds and the language and things that I didn't even know, because immediately my trigger was that's weird, or that's not real, or that's absurd, or that's, stupid, or whatever labels you want to put on things. And looking for things that I thought were signs of empirical or empiricism, right? So, for example, things in Western medicine, things in sales and mathematics and transactional in the corporate world, sort of this is a structure and you follow this structure and you will be okay. And so I know I'm personally grateful to you for making me feel that it was okay to question some of those things, to look to different sources, for inspiration or guidance or wisdom, and also to literally take control of this physical life that we're in right now and connect better with your subconscious. So even if you take it from a neuroscience perspective, or a blend of all of the perspectives that we're sort of referencing, having it digestible for folks to at least dip a toe in the water. And I just want to thank you for doing what you're doing here and what you've done for me personally, because it's unusual. And yet you're not pretending that every moment of every day is perfect. And I think that's right? The last thing I'd love for you to touch on as well is around what's different now. Because like the car, someone cuts you off on the road, or a bill comes in you weren't expecting, or you wake up and something hurts, or whatever it is. Some of those trappings of the physical world still affect us and can bring us out of the higher energy or vibration state. So can you talk a little bit about how you maneuver and how that's different now than it was before?
Yeah, absolutely. I think having this perspective of this being a video game has been the biggest game changer and way to get back to a centering for me. So, pausing and learning how to utilize your breath and regulate your nervous system are absolutely important in the transformation when you're consciously becoming the highest and best version of yourself. So, those are your tools. But to get your mindset really into it, if you think about this as a game, every single thing in your life is here for you to grow and to get to your next level. So that means that person that cut you off, that bill that came, the struggles that you're going through. I'm telling you, when you go on a spiritual path and a healing journey, the struggle is real financially. I went from being completely out of debt and having a good chunk of savings to now being way more in debt than I've ever been in my life, and no savings. So, like, that safety net's completely gone. And at the same time, I've never been happier because I understand this is a game. This is a way to grow and to really learn more about your eternal self. And so I laugh a lot. If something happens that used to upset me or anger me, I used to get this rush of emotion, especially if someone would get in the way of me accomplishing something I needed to accomplish. I had a phone call and someone distracted me or wanted me to do something. This surge of rage would come up in me in my past life. Now, something like that happens, I laugh and I see it as another obstacle. And in video games, every time you get over an obstacle, you jump over that little funny turkey shell, or you get your mushrooms in Mario Brothers 3. Anytime you do those things, you get points, right? Or you get coins, or you get rewarded. So if you give yourself a reward system in this game and say, every time I'm able to overcome that fight or flight or that temptation to react, then I get points. Every time there's a new obstacle in my way and I overcome it, I get points. Or at the Royal Starseed Ascension Sanctuary, which is where I live, and I'm a co-founder of this house and sanctuary where we have women who live here in harmony with each other, and we help people on their spiritual path. We actually use gold stars. So we have a gold star chart, and every time there's something that needs to be done and we do it, then we get gold stars. And those are little reward systems. They keep it fun. And they give us this reminder that there's really nothing to be upset about, because everything is helping us grow, evolve, transform, and ascend to that next level in our game.
That's incredible. And I'll respond to that in two ways. For my way of reframing, cognitive reframing is a big tool we like in positive psych, right? Where I often say to people, even if you don't believe that this is a game, potentially, right? Or whatever you believe. What does it hurt to pretend? Because what we learn in Western science, and at least, I worked in pharma for a long time, about the placebo effect, that it can work even if you know you're lying to yourself. So I always say, what's the harm in just pretending with me for a little while and see how you feel? And I think the other thing you said that I just wanted to like draw back to was about the parasympathetic nervous system shift and fight or flight for those people who might not know those terms. Most of us are constantly in fight or flight, which makes a whole host of processes in your body chemically happen that aren't conductive for the best life, right? You're having cortisol, certain body systems shut off because your body, fight or flight, means you're ready to attack or flee with all the energy you can. So, intimacy, creativity, all those mechanisms are blocked. So, whether you want to approach it from one lexicon or another, all of these ideologies can work together, Eastern and Western, sort of ancient wisdom and new understandings of the world, if we can just be open to looking at them in that way. And that's why I love the fact that you're leveraging technology and AI with spirituality and spiritual awakening, with maneuvering. And I'll leave you with, another gratitude moment for taking this time and sharing all of this
Mm.
with me, with us, yourself, with me personally, and just end with, if there's anything else you'd like to say as a takeaway message, and then finally where people can find you to reconnect and understand more about the programming that you offer.
Thank you so much. I would say my parting message is yes and dive deep. So as I've gone through my spiritual exploration, I've realized my purpose is in helping people move through the duality of this life. There's paradoxes, there's black and white, and there is a moving through that to go beyond. And that's where we find harmony. And that's where we see the beauty of the diversity. And that's where we get to play and actually have fun in this game of life. So, yes, and brings us beyond the duality and the paradoxes that inherently exist. And then when you go beyond, once AI is able to do the jobs that we don't want to do as humans, once we're able to automate with robotics and use quantum computing to be able to break down a lot of the false things that are out there and see through a lot more of the truth that exists in this reality, then we get to dive deeper into being human beings. We're called that for a reason. So like I said, I live at the Royal Starseed Ascension Sanctuary. It's here in Miami, Florida, and we offer memberships and different programs and offerings to help you dive deeper within your own hero's journey, within your own mindset and psyche, potentially past lives, ancestral healing, and really go deep to understand, who are you? What is your purpose here on this planet at this time? And how can you ascend to your next level in the game of life? So you can find me on Christa.one. So it's Christ with an A, CHRISTA.ONE. And that's my personal website. And you can learn more about the work we're doing here in South Florida and around the world.
Well, thank you again so much for taking time today. And thank you for being in my life and so many other people that you are touching and healing. And just wish you a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you, Natanya. Always a pleasure to speak with you. I'm so grateful
At
for
the
the
Natanya
opportunity.
Experience, we believe we can all rise above challenges, heal, and shine together. And so we give big thanks to our amazing partners who share our vision of universal health and happiness.